You're listening to the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast, where we talk about hunting, politics, sports, and everything in between. Now, here's your host, Steve West.
Welcome to the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast. This is season 1, episode 3, and we've got a great guest today. He's a guy who has hosted a television show for, years and years. He's been an outfitter in the past. He's been a great friend to me for a long, long time. We've gone on some tremendous adventures together. It's Rick Kreuter from Beyond the Hunt Television. He's the homelier of the two hosts of the show. His wife, Julie, steals the show there. That is absolutely no secret to anybody that watches their program. But today I get to catch up with an old friend. We're going to tell some hunting stories. Like I said, it'll
be a fun show.
Oh, it'll be a great time to catch. It'll be a great show for sure. And as always, I'm joined in studio by professional hunting consultant Travis Price from our office. Travis books hunters and fishermen every day. He's talking to folks all the time, but he also gets to go on some incredible adventures all over North America and around the world. And we're going to touch on one of those here to kind of start the show. But, here pretty quick, like I said, we're going to bring on Rick Kreuter. And Rick can talk for days. He's got a lot of experience. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's a hell of an archery hunter, and he has killed some big-ass deer. I mean, some big deer. So, I'm looking forward to catching up with you because Rick and I aren't as close as we used to be because we both just go in separate directions. So being able to catch up with an old friend is super important to me today. But anyway, Travis, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today, it's because I'm getting a lot of questions from folks all the time. You know me, I don't whitetail hunt. You're not going to see me sitting in a box. I did it once.
It's the patience, Steve.
I'm not climbing up in no damn tree. Trees are, not for me, right? And so I'm not a whitetail hunter, right? But a couple of years ago, you went up to Saskatchewan and you did that hunt. I mean, how fresh in your memory is that hunt that you went and did up there? I mean, it kind of talk to me about that.
It'll always be fresh, Steve. It was just an amazing adventure. And, for anyone who's ever hunted whitetail deer ever, whether it's in your home state or maybe you traveled somewhere in the lower 48, the holy grail of whitetail hunting is Saskatchewan. And, every outdoor enthusiast knows that. And when I had the opportunity to go up there through Steve's Outdoor Adventures and film a hunt, it followed suit. And, from everything from the quality of deer, the maturity, the size of the bucks, to the guides, to camp, every aspect of the hunt just was, world class. And it'll always be at the forefront of my memory, and I can remember like it was yesterday, and some amazing things happened on that hunt that I'll get to in a bit, but it was super fun, and I would love to go back any day.
So I've gone to Saskatchewan a number of times. I've visited a lot of these camps. I've sat down with the guys in their, their cabins, and I've been there at camp when everybody was going out hunting, and they're like, "Hey man, let's get out there. Let's go hunt." And I'm like, "No." Well, why not? I say, "You want me to go out and sit in a ground blind? It's 5 below zero. There's a lot of snow on the ground. And then you want me to wait for something to come to me. How about we just go climb hills, hike around, get our body temperature up. Let's do something active.
Make it happen.
Yeah, let's go make it happen."
Having it come to you is tough.
I'm not going to go sit there. And if I put on one of those heater bodysuits, a whole bunch of clothes, and I get super warm, I'm taking a nap. That's it. End of story. So it's not going to happen. On that hunt, I remember that I was working on a rifle. Nick and I were putting one together for you. It was the Bergara Premier Series in 450 Bushmaster. Yeah. We had never built that ammunition before. We did the load development. I remember dialing that gun in. You were the first guy in our company to take that gun. In fact, to date, you're the only guy in our company that's taken that gun and that caliber on a hunt. How did that gun perform? How do you rate that as a short-range whitetail caliber?
Yeah. I would rate it as number 1. And the reason is I had a chance to shoot it at the range before going on this adventure. And to this date, I would still rank it as in the top 2, maybe top 1 for accuracy at 100 yards on any other rifle I've ever shot since coming to Steve's Outdoor Adventures. I mean, it was, 3 shots stacked on top of each other, and I was blown away. And it's just a sweetheart of a gun to shoot in general. And when you add the accuracy to it, it just gives you that confidence when you go into the field and you see a buck of a lifetime. You don't have to worry about, is this gun on? Is it, this and that, it's going to perform. And when I got to camp, obviously after traveling, checked my zero, and it was right where I left it. And it was something I didn't have to worry about, and it performed flawlessly.
See, the accuracy, I knew the gun was going to be accurate. What I was looking for was energy, knockdown power, performance. These are 350 pound big northern whitetail deer. These are not wussy ass little southeastern deer.
They're not pea shooters.
Yeah, this ain't no Coues whitetail buck, right?
Yep.
This is a big dog. This is big body, big muscle structure, big animals. I wanted a gun that was going to shoot a big bullet. This is a 275 grain Barnes TSX out the barrel at about 2,175 feet per second, if I remember right. And it was going to make a big hole.
Yep.
You know, I was going
to. And it did that. You know, that as soon as I decided, and I'll get to this in a second on the buck that I shot, but as soon as I decided I'm going to take the buck that I did, it was one shot, one kill. He kind of spun and went maybe 20 feet. I mean, and he dropped instantly. It was amazing, the impact power and the stopping power that bullet had. If you shoot it where it lives, it went down very quickly.
Yeah. I encourage our clients that are traveling north, or any of you who are listening and watching the show, if you're going to go up north, you're going to hunt big bush country deer, whether it's in Saskatchewan or, hey, even Kansas. I mean, Kansas and Iowa, you can use the 450 Bushmaster in Iowa, Ohio. These big corn-fed, monster, heavy-bodied deer, man, when you can go to a straight wall cartridge and hit them at a short range, man, that 450 Bushmaster is downright devastating. And
did the job. Yeah,
the other one we built, not only it proved the accuracy, we put that Eliminator 3 laser scope on a different gun, and we were hitting steel plates at 500 yards.
Yep.
I mean, all of a sudden it becomes a viable long-range deer caliber if you practice and you have the right equipment.
You know where it's hitting.
It was a surprising caliber for me. But what's one piece of advice that you'd give someone who is going up to Saskatchewan to hunt whitetail deer? Like, what's the most valuable lesson you learned from that trip that you would advise one of your clients?
Yep. It comes down to one word, and it's patience. And on that hunt, and all of the listeners can watch it on YouTube, and it's just an amazing hunt to watch on television, in my opinion. But of course I did the hunt, so I might be biased to it, but regardless, you know, I had about halfway through the hunt, and I was hunting a specific target buck that was on camera, right? Split brow tines, and it was just, you know, a really great caliber deer. And during the third morning of the hunt, another deer late in the morning showed up that was basically a shooter as well. And I was presented the decision, do I take this great buck that's in front of me, or do I have the patience to pass on that deer and still stay in the saddle for a target buck? And I was kind of back and forth, but I stuck to my guns and passed on that shooter buck in hopes to get a shot at this target.
Because, brother, I would have smoked that son of a bitch, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and a lot of people would, I'm sure. But really having the patience to stick to my original plan on the hunt. And, you know, after I passed on the deer and he walked out of my life, I remember thinking, did I just make the worst decision of my life and never going to see a giant buck again on this hunt and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, miraculously 3 hours later, that target buck showed up, and it was just an amazing feeling to have, you know, a plan come together and have the patience and that kind of thing. To have that happen was just a huge takeaway for me. And a lot of people on those hunts, because their body size are so big on those deer, it can potentially make the rack look a little bit smaller and make the deer seem younger. And some people overthink that and shoot kind of the first buck that they see that comes out that they think is decent, rather than having the patience, because you're in a great area. You know, you don't have to shoot the first buck you see. You know, be okay with passing on some things that are kind of maybe not the target buck that you're looking for, or something that's more mature to come along. Have the patience. That's my big takeaway on that hunt.
You're not going to kill a 170-inch Saskatchewan buck if you shoot a 140-inch deer the first day. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Hold off, stay patient, wait for those big target deer. Because all these outfitters are running trail cameras now. They're going to tell you what your target deer are.
Exactly. And the other thing on that hunt is you just never know what's going to show up. So even though, you know, you have an idea what's on camera, there's a chance that something that's never been on camera just shows up from a different area, and he's a giant, right?
Cruising for does. It's November, peak of the rut. Something's going down.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing all of that experience, you know, from your trip to Saskatchewan with both me and the listeners, because, you know, I know there's a lot of guys out there that dream of going up north and hitting Saskatchewan, or maybe it's hunting Iowa, because really the same lessons for Saskatchewan apply to anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, anywhere. Yep. And you just never know when that giant buck's going to show up. But be patient, have the right equipment, and have a positive frame of mind when you go into the field.
Yeah, and anyone listening to this show has ever wanted, you know, to go up as a bucket list hunt to chase whitetail deer in Saskatchewan, you know, give me a call and I'll talk you through it and give you firsthand knowledge of every detail of the hunt, and you won't be disappointed. It's a hunt of a lifetime for sure.
Oh, yeah. Folks, seriously, Travis is a professional hunting consultant at our office, and you should. You feel free to give him a call. It doesn't cost you a penny to pick up the phone. Call us at the office, talk to Travis. He will tell you the truth. He'll give you great straight shooting information about different places that you should consider going, or at least steer you in the right direction to help you make good, solid decisions on your next hunting trip.
Yep.
Oh,
and I just want to add one more
yeah.
quick thing. You know, there's a lot of people that talk about don't pass something on day one that you would be happy to harvest on the last day, right? Well, there's the other side of the coin that we just talked about, in that if you shoot the first decent buck you see, you're cutting yourself short potentially on getting that buck of a lifetime. So,
but if you're hunting for the buck of a lifetime, you better be ready to put ketchup on some paper at the end of the hunt.
Yep.
Yeah, you better really eat that tag.
Yep. Yeah. It takes some balls, so to speak, but
oh yeah. But I mean, once again, you ain't going to shoot an 170, 180 inch deer on day 5 if you shoot, you know, just a nice buck on day 1. Two different mindsets, and the hunters have to make up their mind for themselves before the hunt begins.
Yeah, I agree.
Which camp are you going to be in?
With it.
Yeah, which camp are you going to be in, and ride that horse to the end.
Yep. Great advice.
Folks, we'll be right back from this brief commercial break. We're going to be joined by Rick Kreuter from Beyond the Hunt Television. We just got to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Bergara Rifles, where the people truly make the difference.
All right, we're back here on the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast, and I have on the line one of the most successful hunters that I know. He has quietly amassed a hell of a hunting career, killing everything, including massive big bucks. The only thing that's really been safe around this guy has been black bears. I welcome Rick Kreuter, host of the Beyond the Hunt television series. Rick, how are you, buddy?
Man, I'm good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate the kind words. That's it's awfully generous, man. I appreciate you a bunch. Thank you.
No, man. Seriously, I mean, I sat back and was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about who would I have on the show that has killed as much or more big shit than I have, and it was like, that'd be Rick.
Well,
yeah, I was sitting there, and my wife was asking me, I was like, you know, I remember this time that SOB was like traveling through Evanston, Wyoming, and we were on the phone, and I was coming from like Greeley or something, and we met up on the Wyoming-Colorado border, and you had like this, you know, glorified forked horn in the backseat of your pickup that was something like 205 inches, and I just wanted to kick you in the balls and shake your hand at the same time.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think you did, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm still walking funny.
Yeah. Well, that was that was during the black bear hunt when we had to drown that monkey that was on your back. We'll get to that story in just a little bit. But yeah, that was a hell of a deer. I mean, and honestly, like I said, you've amassed a hell of a career killing some nice stuff, and you know, and Julie too. I mean, you guys have got your bears and your big deer and some hellacious bulls, and I mean, it's been a hell of a ride, hasn't it?
It has. You know, it's kind of funny. We were just talking earlier today. We're hitting season 15 of Beyond the Hunt, and so that, in addition to say 16 years of outfitting, you know, before we started the TV stuff, I ran my outfitting business, RK Outfitters, and that obviously led us into TV. But you know, just to go back and talk about real quick about what you were saying about killing some big shit. Honestly, a lot of those opportunities on some of the animals that we've killed, you know, we would have never had the opportunity had it not been for you. So I don't know if a lot of people know that or not. You know, we going back quite a ways. I mean, Steve, you were gracious enough to give us the opportunity to go kill Julie's coastal brown bear and my interior grizzly, and I mean, go down the list of all those critters that, you know, if it weren't for you, they'd still be on the bucket list. So yeah, I mean, we've been very fortunate to have knocked out some really cool animals on that list. But again, it comes back to the opportunities that you and Steve's Outdoor Adventures have given us, and the contacts and the people that you've worked with over the years. So kudos to you, and a big thank you for allowing us to have some of those experiences under our belt.
Oh man, you guys did a great job filming. Let me ask this: did you full body mount both the bears?
Yeah, you know what? To be completely honest and transparent, they are still waiting to be done. Our taxidermist takes really good care of them, treats them with kid gloves, takes them out and hydrates them, but and then puts them back in the freezer. But the reason we did so, Steve, was, we live in Nebraska, western Nebraska. Julie's family had built a big ranch up into the sandhills of Nebraska, and then also while that was growing, they started building the farm. And so that's backwards. The farm came first, and then as the cattle prices and crop prices went back and forth, they started investing into grass and cattle. And so, long story short, we ended up on the farm place, and it's 100 and some years old, and we've taken a lot of time to kind of rebuild this place, and we're always doing something here. But with that being said, this week we just started on plans to build a game room slash. It's a big addition that will go onto our office, and so that's being designed specifically for the bears and the caribou and some of the things that we've shot up north that need some dedicated space, so to speak.
I would call it a man cave, but your wife has shot some big shit too.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, the one in particular you referenced, and I just did too, but her coastal brown bear is a pretty special one. And so that in and of itself is requiring some thought on how we build that into the space. So yeah, she's killed some amazing animals, man. She's killed some, I'd say, so her coastal brown bear is at the top as far as one of her favorites. But the girl she is an elk calling machine, and she is, I think, a big mule deer is her probably, if she can't draw elk tags, you'll find her trying to pin down a big mule deer somewhere. I'd say that's her favorite. So
yeah, but she's killed some big ass deer too. It might not have.
Yeah,
El Drapo. Let me tell you something. After El Drapo, fucking retire. That's all I've got to say right there.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, it's true, man. And she said after she shot that deer, she said, I don't have to ever kill another mule deer.
Yeah, the other 180-inch plus bucks that she's killed, those are just extra check marks on the resume. Who you bullshitting, man? This girl's she's an assassin. So,
yeah, she is.
Yeah, without a doubt. Hey, I'm joined in studio here by Travis Price from our office. I think Travis, I wanted to introduce you to Travis, and someday hopefully we'll all get a chance to share a camp together. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But Travis, I think you had a question for Rick.
How you doing, Rick?
Hey, good, man. Nice to meet you virtually.
Yes. Yeah. Same. I feel the same way. I got a quick question for you. For the listeners and for myself and what Steve's referencing, and you and Julie have killed some big shit, right? And what's the one thing that's kind of, if you had to pick one thing that's kind of put you in that position, or what do you do well to get in that position to harvest big stuff?
Well, I guess, thank you for the good words and the question. I would say, for me personally, I like to utilize, I guess I have to kind of break it down. So bear with me when I spell this out a little bit, because I think it is my strong suit. And I enjoy the challenge, I guess, is probably why I'm drawn or addicted to this style. But just growing up in Wyoming, hunting open country, I just have always felt like I had a really good grasp on visualizing the terrain in front of me. So looking at the topography, understanding it in my mind, and knowing that, okay, I'm looking at that going, a lot of guys are going to say you can't get there, but if you back off of it, so let me back up again just here another step and say, so back in the day, like Field and Stream was doing a series on me called Master Series, and it was a guide series, but it was all about hunting on the ground out west, and how could we apply some of those tactics to other styles or other places hunting. And it was mostly at that time, believe it or not, whitetails, but we just applied it to so many different things. And so now to come back to the question, the ability to say, okay, that antelope's eyes or that mule deer's eyes are X amount of inches off the ground. What can he see versus what I'm actually physically seeing right now? And I always try to look at it and say, there's no way in hell that deer or that antelope or that elk can see that depression right there because he's only so tall. And although I'm on a high spot and I can see him, there's no way he can see that spot. So I'm gonna bust my ass to get into that spot, and then it's going to give me the opportunity that I'm looking for. And a lot of times I think guys would either just go, shit, I'm going to go for it right here. Yep. and wing one, or I'm going to back off and just try to get higher and maybe come on down on top of him. And I guess I think that's what has given me more opportunities, is just looking at something and maybe looking at it from the animal's eyes versus saying, versus what the average hunter would say or how they would see it, and then try to make a plan based on that. And, maybe I'm painting this picture like I'm the only guy that thinks that way. I'm not. I just think that's what has given me those opportunities. I'm sure there's a lot of guys that take a situation and try to strip it down that way too. But I found when I was outfitting, I had a lot of guys that would say, hell no, I'm not going to sit in that hole, or hell no, I'm not going to, do this or sit in front of that. And I've always had these weird sayings, more cover behind builds a better blind, which doesn't make any sense if it's a blind, right? But that back cover is so important. So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's kind of, and doing it from a little kid. I started with my dad's recurve, and I had to get close. My dad's 45-pound bear recurve, and I wasn't going to fling an arrow if I didn't get close enough. And to me, in those days, it was 20 yards or less. And so I kind of applied that mentality to my outfitting business when I started that. And now the challenge to do that as I've gotten older, I'm drawn to that. I'm really drawn to that. As much as I love shooting a gun long range, I really love getting close. So perfect. I hope that kind of spelled it out a little bit. Absolutely. Travis.
Yep.
I always thought you just fell down and found 4-leaf clovers laying everywhere, and you're just
yeah, right.
It's not just that you're lucky.
Yeah, it's not just lucky. No, I get it entirely. To see the terrain and play the topography based on what you believe that the animals see through their eyes, that's what sets it apart. That's and honestly, it's having the balls to roll the dice and say, I don't think he can see me there, so I'm gonna take a shot at this.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like you're getting in predator mode at that point and thinking as a predator.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think 100%. And just to go back to luck, Steve, I mean, back in the day, I was wearing shirts and selling T-shirts that said "Hunt hard, get lucky." That was kind of the motto I lived by. And until my dad started wearing shirts, and he thought it was cool to, 70-year-old guy going into the bar in these small towns, hunt hard, get lucky, and the ladies were slapping him left and right as a single guy. I was getting my old man in trouble.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a good motto, though. So
right,
it got you married anyway. So
there you go.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Hey Rick, we got to take a quick commercial break here. We got to get a word in from our fellow sponsor Burris. We'll talk a little bit more about them, but we'll be right back with the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Burris Optics. Find what matters.
All right, we're back here on the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast, and we've got Rick Kreuter on the line. I'm joined by Travis Price from our office. And, one of the little-known facts out there is that for those of us who have television series, we have to have sponsors. Without sponsors, we don't have TV shows. End of story, right? I mean, these sponsors make everything possible for us. Our great content, our trips, everything we do is only possible through the sponsors. And one sponsor that Rick Kreuter and Beyond the Hunt Television and Steve's Outdoor Adventures have in common is a long-standing relationship with Burris Optics Company. And I know, Rick, when I had you kind of, come join the Burris family, so to speak, in television, your big question was, there was a bow sight coming and things like that. And, and I archery hunt, but I don't archery hunt with the same passion as you. Tell me, how do you feel about the Oracle bow sight? I mean, talk to me about it. I have never actually used one. I have 3 of them in a drawer at the office and none on my bow because they're not legal in the state of Oregon. But that's just because I live in a back-assward state, in terms of, modern technology. But you've shot it, you've used it. Talk to me about it. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, 100%. It goes. So it's funny. I love. And I have all the respect in the world for our fellow followers and folks that watch the show and communicate through social media and all those things. And it's funny because I just told you about growing up shooting my dad's bear recurve, and so I've been a traditional guy at heart my whole life, and there's something about watching the arrow fly. Now you say that, and it's hard for people to understand when you start putting the technology that Burris has put into their Oracle initially right out of the gate, and then now this new Oracle 2 that's come out. And people say, well, geez, when's enough? And I got to tell you, man, as much as I still love to just pick up a recurve and feel that in my hands, there is something that is so amazing about having a piece of technology in your hand that can still that can, you're looking at that spot and your equipment's going to put that arrow right where you're looking. And so the thing that I think I've grown the most fond about the Oracle bow sight is let's just say, and I'm going to put people in this scenario, you're kind of hopped up, there's a big animal coming in, you're grabbing your rangefinder, you're trying to hit that animal multiple times or spots that you think he's going to walk into, that you're acquiring ranges so that you can, be ready for the shot. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I still get a little bit jacked up. And sometimes if I don't have something to lean my range finding hand onto to hit that target, I'm all over the place. So I've got my bow in one hand and I'm trying to range something with my right hand, and I might be all over the place trying to get an accurate reading on my rangefinder. It happens. And so I think one of the things that I never thought I would experience with the Oracle that I absolutely love right now is you come to full draw, you touch your button one time, it activates the 20-yard lighted pin, and then you touch it one more time and it gives you that angle and laser range finded compensation that'll light up on that tree for you. And what it does is, for me, when I'm at full draw and I've hit my full backstop in my draw cycle, it gives me extreme stability so that when I put my initial 20-yard ranging dot on my target, I'm so solid that there's no guessing as to if I got a good range. And that's the one thing that I've come away with the Oracle sight that's been so slick, and obviously the fact that it makes it a little bit quicker in the process. But man, it's Steve, going back to when you brought me on, gave me the opportunity to become part of Team Burris, and bringing me in. Yeah, it was a big concern at the time because there was talks about this bow sight coming down the pipe, and man, Burris, they did not release it until it was dialed. And I'm telling you, as far as you want to talk about best in category, I mean, they've nailed it, and it comes off of the brains of the Eliminator scope, as you well know. And if guys are looking to put that kind of technology on their bow, look no further. The Burris Oracle is money, guaranteed.
And you talk about, like, there's people out there that hate on it, right? Like, when's enough technology?
Yeah.
Enough technology. I like to think of it like this. Let's be inclusive. If you want to use it, great, use it. No one's going to make you use it. If you want to be a traditional archer, hunt with traditional archery equipment. If you want to hunt with a modern muzzleloader, do it. If you want to hunt with an old flintlock muzzleloader, use it. Regardless of what season you want to hunt, I think the technology should be available for us to take advantage of if we want to. But if we want to do it in a more traditional manner, that should be our choice. And that we shouldn't hate on other people within our sport. We should encourage them to join the sport and go in the field and take part in these hunts. And hopefully, more states open up. Quite a few states actually allow the Burris Oracle bow sight, don't they?
Yeah. It's becoming more and more accepted. And so, yeah, but I'll go back to what you said, Steve. I mean, agree 100%. Pick up what you love and get out there and get after it, and know that there's opportunities like this out there. And look at what they've done with the crossbow sight, the Oracle X. I mean, the crossbow game has blown up, and they've got a sight now that is killer for crossbow hunters. I don't shoot a crossbow at the moment. I kind of like the idea of maybe going out and sniping some yotes with it, but I'll get there, So there's that. I guess there's an interest there for me, and so I'll scratch that itch at some point for sure.
And for me, it kind of sounds like it's going to, for a lot of people, it'd be increasing the ethical kill shot, so to speak. When you're that confident, that it's ranging correctly, and that that arrow is going to fly true to where you're aiming, and that's what I'm getting out of this.
More. You're going to have fewer wounded and lost animals for sure, because you're not going to have guys shooting, thinking, well, I think it's 40 and it's really 30, and they're not going to hit it high or low. You're going to be shooting true to spots, so you're going to have better arrow placement and fewer wounded and lost animals. How about the Eliminator 4? Did you get one of those yet?
Nope, not yet. Well, as you know, Greeley is not that far away from me, and we've had it in the plans to get together and run through all these products, get them all set up, and be ready. But we've been in the middle of a deep freeze, and so I think everybody's just been kind of hunkered down, waiting for a little bit nicer weather. But sounds to me like you've gotten your hands on it.
I've got 20 of them.
Yeah,
I ordered them for the Armory.
You are Mr. Eliminator.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so we got the very first one. We filmed this unboxing, right? And there was no, honestly, there was a lot of different thoughts about what the Eliminator 4 was going to look like. Was it going to be smaller, more compact? What was it going to look like? And I didn't open the box. I think it was in the office for over a week, and I didn't open the box because I wanted a true unboxing.
But he really wanted to, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
It was killing him.
Yeah, it was. I mean, every day. If anybody would have zipped that box open, I'd have shot him, right? I mean, it was everybody's told, stay away from the box from Burris. Anyway, so we get all the camera set. We're going to shoot the unboxing, and we go through all of the steps. And I open it up, and it looks exactly like an Eliminator 3, only with a gray ring on the magnification dial. And it says Eliminator 4. And I was, and I think if anybody looks at my face, they're like, oh man, Steve looks really disappointed here. It's when you get into the guts of it and you realize that this laser rangefinder in the Eliminator 3 was you'd max out around 1,200 yards. But then you grab this thing and you range something at 2,250 yards. And you realize that the laser is super badass powerful, and you're going to have far better, performance from that aspect of the scope. And then, having some insight into some of the future things that are coming down the pike. I can tell you this, the Eliminator family of scopes, as it grows, is just going to get super badass. And I can hardly wait till we're able to talk about those things more publicly. But yeah, there's the Eliminator 4 did not disappoint, man. I shot a deer in California, a black-tailed deer down there at 601 yards. Of course, I overkilled it with a 300 PRC, and this thing was, those deer are about the size of a Labrador with antlers. Right. And I just absolutely smoked this buck. And the guide was like, you didn't ask me for the range. I was like, well, the scope does it, for me. And he was like, what do you mean it does that for you? And I showed him how it works, and he instantly on the spot tried to buy the rifle. We just shipped him his own the other day. But yeah, the Eliminator 4 is a true game changer, and then that takes me to the thermals, right? And so we've all seen the thermals. We got to play with them. I was supposed to get mine in FedEx 2 weeks ago. I'm going to go to Greeley and kick someone's ass this next week because I've been waiting, and I think what happens is that everybody wants this set of media thermals. If I find out they're in Nebraska before they end up in Oregon, I'll be driving to Nebraska to reclaim them. I'm just saying.
Well,
so,
hey, man, we'd love to have you. Come on.
I know the door's always open. I'll bring the machine guns. You just have the thermals. But anyway,
there you go.
Yeah, I wanted to get out and hammer some coyotes and maybe see what a wolf looks like in one at night. Of course, without trigger play. But I'm really eager. I mean, Burris is at the forefront. I mean, the other day I was looking through the XTR3 scopes. I will put an XTR3 scope up against any of the Swarovski scopes any given day of the week. They're badass. I mean, honestly, Burris is bringing some badass optics, to the marketplace right now.
They are 100%. I mean, I think, certainly do not sleep on them, because I think you're going to see some pretty kick-ass stuff here. I mean, well, they've already changed the game, from what, let's be honest. I mean, I've been all over the world. I mean, well, not like you have, Steve, but I've been all over the country. Let's put it that way. And I'm telling you, I've met so many people that are not just hardcore Burris folks, but I mean, you can go down family lineage of, hey, my great granddad had this, check this one out. And they're pulling them out of the closet. And I've stood right there when guys from Burris have said, hey, you know what, man, if you need to send it back in, it's got the forever warranty, we'll honor it, send it back in, we'll fix whatever we need to. And it's mind boggling to me, that there's this, I'll say it's kind of a cult following. And now when you see what they're doing and changing the game, I think they're going to grow. That brand loyalty is going to go through the roof.
Well, and you bring up the warranty. No questions asked, forever warranty. Drop it off the edge of the Grand Canyon, pick up the parts at the bottom and send it in. They'll fix it or replace it. I mean, no questions asked is pretty straightforward. And honestly, I told a guy this yesterday when he was ordering his rifle package. He's like, well, I want you to get me that Swarovski scope. I was like, dude, let me tell you something. That Swarovski scope is like $3,500. And if you put this XTR3 right next to it, you're going to have better light collection because it's a 34 millimeter tube versus a 30 millimeter tube. You're going to love the reticle, and you're going to spend half the money. And, and he's like, yeah, but what if? And I said, tell you what, here's your what if. You look through the scope the first time, and if you don't like it, send the gun back. I'll own the XTR3, and I'll order you the Swarovski scope. I'll redo my work. There's no chance he's going to do it. It's about the fifth time I've done that. Absolutely no one who gets the XTR3 in lieu of a Swarovski has ever asked to send it back because it's crystal clear, it's big glass, and it just really looks good.
And it's not just the scopes, they're spotting scopes, binoculars, all that, just spot on.
They've become more of a modern company because I think for a while they're like you said, Rick, there's a cult following of people who had Burris rifle scopes from 1975 to 1980. And then I think there was that transition period in there where everybody got to know like the original full field scopes, the 3 to 9s. They were kind of a low end budget type scope. And for whatever reason, they sold a lot of those. And the Signature Series scopes didn't come out as strong as I think they could have. And I think that there's a certain generation of people in America that didn't get the original Burris quality and message. And now you've got Burris charging to the forefront with this badass line of rifle scopes and optics in general, and then they're saying, hey, by the way, we've got this kick-ass bow sight and we've got thermals and we've got this eliminator. I mean, the eliminator, I don't know how many millions of dollars in eliminator scopes we've sold, but it's been more than a few. I mean, that is the rifle scope for hunters these days. And to see to see the Burris brand growing and of course, I'm biased, like you said, you could say Mr. Eliminator or whatever. I mean, granted, I was kind of at the forefront of that when it came on the marketplace. I still have Eliminator #1 in my gun safe. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. I also have, I've got number 1 of the 4s too, but it's my own personal collection. And, to be a part of that from, start to finish, it's just a personal, we talk about like our hunting careers and the things that we've accomplished. Anything that I take away from any of my sponsor relationships has been that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of like the Burris, Eliminator launch and the product build. And then I was actually a part of Bergara's rifles when they first were launched, so I've been able to be a part of some things when they first got started, and it's been kind of special to me in my career. Yeah. Ground level, just being able to build something up. Hey, Rick, we got to take another quick commercial break here. We got to hear from another sponsor. But when we come back, let's go down memory lane, man. Let's do some bullshit and let's tell some stories. What do you say?
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back with more Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Pendleton Ammunition. Hand-loaded, one round at a time.
All right, everybody, we're back here with the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast, and I'm joined with in the studio with Rick Kreuter from Beyond the Hunt Television and Travis Price from our office. And Rick, like we were talking before we went to commercial break, we've had some great adventures. We've traveled to New Mexico and done a couple things, but the one adventure that I'll always remember was when you and two absolutely goofy sons of bitches on the cameras and I rode into the backcountry of British Columbia, into the Purcell Wilderness to go black bear hunting. And I mean, that was a badass adventure. We had a good time.
That was 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. You want me to take it a little bit?
Yeah. I want to hear your perspectives. People have heard my take on the story, you know, over the years, but I mean, realistically, I remember why I invited you. It wasn't just because you were a friend and we wanted to go do something cool together. It was because you kind of had that black bear jinx going on.
I did. You know, growing up a Wyoming kid, I tried to kill a black bear in Wyoming for years and years and years. And I was running baits at one point for about 5 years straight. And you know, just a lot of things going on. I just couldn't get one shot. And I've been multiple other trips, by the way, to different places and could never get one knocked down. And so, yeah, you hit me up with the invite up to BC and 17 miles in on horseback. And of course, I love horses. I love adventure. And this trip sounded like, and then of course, you know, your goofy camera guys happen to be just really good friends. I think for both you and I, just best friend material, you know, just guys you want to spend those types of camps with. And so, yeah, man, I was stoked to have the opportunity. And we get into camp and it's everything I'm thinking it's going to be. And then that damn black bear curse just kicked me right in the nuts, you know, right. I mean, it was, let's just be very transparent. You know,
Yes.
You guys are like, we've got a really good bear over here. We need to get Rick over here. We jump on the horses and I mean, it's Kentucky Derby through the Purcell Wilderness, right? We're trying to get
I could
there.
hear you guys coming. In all seriousness, I heard you guys way downriver. The bear, it's a good thing that bear was on the other side of Dutch Creek because and it was raging because on our side it sounded like 50 people coming.
Yeah. No, well, I believe it. And just so I'm not too windy, long story short, I get there, Steve hands me his gun and I end up missing the bear and extremely frustrated. You know, here's these guys that are gracious enough to say, I mean, it's a big bear, shooter bear. Steve could have pulled the trigger, but what do? They want Rick there to try to get this curse off of my back. And I jump in there behind the gun and it's a swing and a miss and I feel like a heel. I feel terrible. And, you know, so to make amends, we proceed to go back to camp and we had a good night that evening. We forgot all about the miss. Let's put it that way.
I ladies and gentlemen, Rick and I are not drinkers, but
no, not to that level.
Yeah, we got fucked up. We took that monkey off your back and drowned it in Dutch Creek.
we certainly did. At one point, Steve was so happy. He said if I didn't drink another, he was going to throw me in the creek.
Actually, we were headed out the door, I think. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, and then waking up the next morning, you know, and to this day, I can't look at a bottle of Wiser's and not get just a little bit sick, just a little. But
I agree.
Yeah, waking up the next morning, going outside, having that big damn horse Dave step on my foot. I climbed on the saddle backwards. We couldn't.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was something else. I mean, we suffered for about 24 hours on that. You know, wasn't that the night we had the big Dutch oven dinner?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we came back to that big badass Dutch oven dinner, and and then woke up the next morning and the monkey had jumped off your back, rode down river. You finished the story, man. That one's your story.
Yeah, so we were up. Everybody was trying to shake off the funk the next morning, and we got the horses saddled up and we took off out of camp and I'll never forget. I mean, I don't think. What do you think, Steve? Were we half a mile out of camp, maybe?
I don't know, but that was a gift. That's all I know. The gods of the
Right.
hunt had smiled down on you.
Yeah, I mean, so Brent comes boogieing back down the trail and heads us off and says, "Get off your horse. We got a bear up here." And so like, yeah, man, we bail off and get up to where Brent had seen this bear, and sure enough, he's still there. And so Dan, Dan was right off of my hip, and we got set up. Dan's cameraman, producer, was producing, I think, for both Steve and I at the time between trips. And so I'd had a great relationship with Dan, and, we're just kind of communicating and getting ready. And finally the bear gives us the opportunity, and I think it was maybe 75 yards or something like that. And it was, like you said, Steve, it was a gift. And I pulled the trigger, that bear rolled, and the smoke cleared. And the next thing I know, I was fixing to give Dan kind of a post-shot reaction, and Steve the Giant is literally tackling me and shaking the hell out of me, telling me, "It's over, it's over." You were screaming that the curse was over, and it was, man, it was just one of those experiences that. Having all of that stuff kind of disappeared, the all of those years of trying to shoot a bear, and it became overwhelming that that wasn't the story anymore. What the story was is I had some of my best friends with me right there. We're all hugging each other and experiencing that moment, and those are the days that you live for. Those are the days that, as I get older and I think about hunting and some of the stories, as much as I love putting a pack on, hiking somewhere by myself and being alone with the camera, even, and Julie knows this about me too, I long for those trips to just go and be alone. There's also that other side of experiencing something like that the first time. That's hard to, you don't get a lot of firsts, right? And to be able to do that with a bunch of guys that I consider dear friends was freaking badass.
Yeah. What I'll take away from that trip is that shortly thereafter killing your bear, of course, we spent the rest of the day dealing with that and the mad moose and all that other stuff. The moose that wanted to cause trouble. But anyway, I remember the very next day, Brent and I are upriver, going to try and fill my bear tag. And evidently, while I was drunk that night, the monkey climbed off of your back, walked across the room, climbed up on mine. And the next day on a chip shot bear, I sailed 3 air balls across Dutch Creek, can't touch hair. I feel like a total a-hole. Missed another one shortly thereafter. I mean, I went completely to pot. And I remember thinking to myself, damn, that monkey is heavy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You hunt long enough and for different species and things. And I can definitely relate, Rick, in that for me, it was a 6-point bull elk that took, 25 years of hunting to try and get one killed. And I don't know what causes it. And maybe it's just added pressure as you continue to not be successful on a specific animal. But if you hunt long enough, for a certain species, we all kind of have that one animal that just gives us trouble over the years. And I can definitely relate. And I'm glad that you got that monkey off your back.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate it. Yeah. I think it almost becomes, I think at some point, and I did on black bears, I just got to a point where I knew it just wasn't going to happen. And I was actually coming to grips with it. Hey, there's a lot of other critters I can go hunt. Black bear's got my number. But that trip proved to be different. Yeah, Steve, I'm sorry that the monkey, in your words, he jumped on your back and did not let go.
You got a chokehold. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've shot one since then, but I mean, there for a few days, I was thinking to myself, damn, now that Rick's got tagged out, I wonder if I can get him to go drinking again and I can give him this little primate. I'm going to give him this primate back because it sucked.
Right.
One of the guys that was on that trip, I mean, we talk about Dan, we talk about Ian Majak, right? So Ian's on that trip. He was the other camera operator. And, you know how many trips Ian and I have been on together. Like some legendary shit has gone down on some trips. I'm going to have him on the podcast soon. just to tell some stories that have never been told before. Some stuff
Awesome.
where we're going to sign like disclosures that like we're going to violate some bro code material. We're going to,
Oh boy.
oh man, I'm telling you, that's going to be a story where you keep the kids under 17 from hearing that podcast. Anyway, because everybody wants to do some gangster shit till it comes down to doing some gangster shit. Then
Oh man, I can't wait. I'll be listening.
it'll be fun to say the least, and there was another, so I watched that episode just to kind of, and I'm not saying refresh my memory because we did 2 episodes of it. I remember the first bear. Do you remember the first bear you guys did the crossing? Like, you guys rode across Dutch Creek. It was you and Brent and Dan went across, and you took your bow and nothing else.
Yeah.
And so I was on the other side of the creek with Ian and Christy watching you guys do your thing. And of course I had the rifle out and I was like, well, if that bear comes, and then I walked down to the horse and I looked down and I find none other than your release laying in the middle of the trail. And, I walked back up there and I had your release and I was like, look, you guys, we should get ready to shoot. Cause if that big bear comes out, he's useless over there right now.
Oh man.
So were you aware that you didn't have your release, Rick?
What's that?
Were you
Travis?
aware that you didn't have it with you?
No.
Interesting.
No. There again in lies the freaking black bear curse, right?
Yep.
It's
I had
over.
no idea. And I'm like, what in the hell is he walking up here for?
Yep.
He's going to screw this up.
You might need this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, have you shot a black bear since then?
I have. I have. I shot one up in Saskatchewan. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of gone away, man. It did. It floated down the river and it's never come back. Thank goodness.
Good.
A night to have recorded a podcast. You remember that night sitting at the table, once again, the famous drunk night. And there was a lot of really good wisdom and discussion. That would have been a night to have had a podcast. That was I mean, seriously, you think about the discussions we had with Brent that night. And I mean, we went deep on some stuff like, hunting and should you be hunting over bait and what's the pros to this and that and elk hunting and horses and traditions and family. And man, I'll tell you what, that night, the Wisers brought out some deep discussion.
Yeah. No, had we had the insight or the foresight, I guess, to just throw a camera up and let it capture a lot of the stories and stuff, it would have been fun to break some of that out for sure.
But it's interesting how you said, it's not always about the kill of an animal. And when you explain, what we do for a living or what our passions are to non-hunters, it's the things that, the camaraderie with, people in camp or, things like that that you remember the most and that you value the most. So it was really interesting to hear that from you, Rick, as you spoke about this adventure.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Travis. And the thing I think we don't get to talk. It's probably it's just the way life goes, and everybody's moving a million miles an hour. But I think about that a lot. I think about that trip a lot, and although we don't talk about it a lot, I think the thing that I really at that moment to see Steve so fired up for me was like so humbling and so I want to say giving, like this guy invited me on this trip and set aside his own opportunities to give me every opportunity and didn't take an opportunity until I filled my tag. And so when that happened, he was the first guy not just congratulating me, but literally physically beating the hell out of me out of happiness. And it, and I mean, I can't tell you what that means. I mean, a lot of people will never get to experience something like that. But man, it says a lot about you, Steve. I've always said this. You can ask anybody. I've always said, you haven't been around when I've said this, but I say it a lot. Steve is a big guy and his heart's just as big. I mean, you've got a big heart, man. And you have been very, you've been very humble in the things that you do for people. And it goes even back to the things that you do for the terminally ill kids. And, again, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity, and I can't thank you for what you do for the sport. And I think, I hope people see that in you. It's been so fortunate to have some of the opportunities that you've given me. And I didn't do anything special. You're that kind of guy. And so I think if I could say that and people can hear me, they see you as Steve's Outdoor Adventures, and I know that you're doing a lot of things. You've got your ammunition and a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and I know all that stuff's growing. But man, people need to know what kind of guy you are. At the end of the day, man, you're just a big dude with a big ass heart, and I love that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We, like I said, we're blessed to be able to do some of these things for a living, and we're a part of a community and an industry that's given a lot to us, and I think it's our job to give back some, and and hopefully at the end of the day, when I'm getting judged someday, the judge rules in my favor and I get to go north rather than south. But I'm still trying to get into heaven, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this, Rick. I mean, obviously we're winding down a great show. I mean, God, we've going down memory lane on that trip. My mind's got 100 different memories, and like I mentioned before, you've had a hell of a hunting career. What was your personal favorite hunt? Your best memory from a hunt that you made for the television series? It has to be an episode. It has to be a TV show that you made. What's your number one memory?
Oh man,
your favorite?
Well, my number one favorite. Well, does it have to be me? Does it have to be me killing the animal, or can it be somebody else?
It can be somebody else.
Well, so I got to tell you, it's a tie. If I can do that, there's a show that we did way back in the day called the Icy River Buck, and it may not mean much to most, but the cool thing about that morning was, and it's 150-inch whitetail on the river. Okay. It's not a world-class deer. And I've been fortunate to have shot, 200-inch whitetail, 200-inch mule deer. I've just been really lucky. So, but this whitetail in particular, the river was freezing and backing up, and Julie and I were walking in the dark. This is when we very first started the TV show. And we didn't know shit about filming. I mean, we had just come off that Drury's show and we still were green with a camera. But I was going to one of the spots that I had when I was outfitting and putting clients in, and I knew it was a good spot. So we were headed in and in the dark, and the river was freezing and backing up, and we're a quarter mile off the river. And now we're walking in water. It's turning to ice. And we're knee deep into water. So it was flooding out. And I just said, shit, we just got to get to a high spot. So we backed off and jumped on a little island full of cedar trees. Daylight broke, and here comes the deer. So it was ice cold out. Thermals were going straight up. You could see your breath just floating straight up right out of your mouth, and the sun was breaking. And here come these deer, and the does and fawns are coming by us at 3 yards, and they're talking. The fawns are mewing. It's like pretty surreal. And here comes this 150-inch deer. He jumps the fence, and as soon as he jumps the fence, I pull my bow back because I know he's within 15 yards at that point. And he lands, because I knew when he jumped the fence, he was going to be looking where he was landing and not looking at his surroundings. And so as soon as he started to jump and was on his way down, I pulled my bow back. I had does at 3 to 5 yards. They kind of spooked and stood there and looked. And then that buck looked at them, and I happened to just, make a great shot. And the coolest part about that is Julie was standing up behind me, leaning against a cottonwood tree with the camera right over my shoulder. So it was just all over the shoulder on the ground, just like growing up. And it just was like epic for me to be able to shoot a deer with all those other deer that close and have her be able to film it right over my shoulder. That was number one. And the second one, I know we probably got to wrap, but I want to say the second one that I love to this day was when the day that Julie realized she could voice call elk, and she called that bull in from about 600 yards out on a windy day and called him into 10 yards, and she pinwheeled him with her bow. That she broke down, and that, to see her get to I guess grow in that moment of more confidence and as a woodsman or a person in the outdoors that can actually use a God-given talent to suck that bull in and do what she did and make a great shot, and that bull went down at 75 yards is me. I mean, that's as good as it gets. That's the stuff I'll remember when I get to hang it all up. So I hope there's more like that, but if you had to pin me down, I'd have to say those two right now.
You know, in looking at, like, over the last, I guess, like you said, you guys have had 15 years of television. We're in our 20th season this year, and you know, we look at all these memories and stuff, but I think about, like, some of the things that Julie's done that are a great example for other women in the industry. You know, I remember the first real barrier, so to speak, or I want to say barrier or hurdle or mountain that she climbed, so to speak, to me, was on that brown bear hunt, where you had to push past that personal discomfort in a windy, cold cabin, freezing your asses off. Mother Nature's against you. The hunting's sucking. The wind's at your back. Everything's going wrong, and then you persevere. She pushed through that moment. I remember you and I talking about that after the fact, how proud you were of her in that moment. And, you know, that's just, you know, and then to hear this other story about voice calling in an elk and killing it, that's cool that when she does those things, it's good for all of the women that aspire to be like her, all of the young women, all of the older ladies, anybody. If they're female and they're watching Julie, they can take great example from her.
And it shows what's possible. You know, mind over matter. I totally agree with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me ask you, yeah, and not to, I guess, cut that short, because once again we're running kind of long here on the show. But, you know, you and I talked about something that's super important a while back, and that is, you know, you've been out west hunting and you came across BLM lands that were not open to the public due to, like, oil and gas easements and stuff like that. And you were giving me some great advice for, you know, how we were doing the mapping with Far Wide and how to maybe get some of that information researched and get up to date in the mapping app and whatnot. Question for you, you know, as we're trying to overcome that hurdle and get that information in there, how often have you come across those oil and gas, you know, easements and stuff that block public access to what otherwise should be public land?
Every single day that I hunt Wyoming on public land, it happens every single day. And I know that sounds crazy, but especially if I've been in certain areas where I'm not finding what I want. Let's just say I'm trying to find something that's special, or let's just say I'm looking for an 80-inch antelope. That's my goal. And I have covered some ground, and it's day 3, 4, 5. And now you start, even though you've been scouting and things have changed, because now public land, you've got public land pressure. It's not like it was during the scouting season. It's now boots on the ground, animals are moving around, and you're having to move into some of these different areas. I'm telling you, Steve, every single time, to the point where it's been extremely frustrating, and you swear you'll never do it again, and then I end up putting in for the same damn tag and doing it all over.
Yeah, like you like self-punishment. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's something we're still working at Far Wide. I wanted your feedback on that, because you're going to see that more in oil and gas developed states like, you know, Wyoming and the Dakotas and Nebraska than you are going to here in Oregon, like where I'm at. So I really wanted that feedback from you, because that's something that's important to us, to try and get that information into the app as much as we possibly can and help hunters avoid spots that don't have access due to those oil and gas easements, and try to, you know, get that app as up to speed and possible. You know, we're constantly upgrading the app. The updates are coming almost every other week right now. So we want to do that. Yeah. The other thing, and just to make it a final, this is the last thing I want to ask you about. I know you were super frustrated with social media. You know, the censorship of hunters and gun owners, anybody that talks politics. I mean, is Parler even a thing anymore? I mean,
is
Parler even a thing now, or is it gone?
Well, I heard that they were able to come back with a new CEO, and I think that they're back up and running with a new CEO.
Got it. Well, anyway,
but I haven't.
Yeah, I want to invite you to join us on the Far Wide social media platform. I'd love it if you guys were to take part in that and post some stuff there, and let's see if we can't create a space that at Far Wide that's inclusive for everybody in the outdoors. So,
well, I love where your head's at. I think there's room for improvement, and I know you're addressing the issues that the complaints that I've had. I actually am a member, or I have downloaded the Far Wide app to my phone. I've been trying to get familiar with it. So, hey man, I'm all in, and I appreciate what you guys are doing for people that want to get out and adventure and taking some of the complaints to heart. It means the world.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Can I say one last thing real quick before we go?
Of course.
I want to tell you again, just bouncing back to Julie, you guys know how proud I am of her, and the opportunity that she had on that coastal brown bear hunt was because of you. And, we've had a lot of talks behind the scenes about that particular trip. And you talk about how she could be a role model for other women, doesn't matter the age. And I'm telling you, it's all about personal growth, and I think Julie's long-term, the message that she's gotten from the outdoors over the last 15 to 20 years that we've been doing this is, because she helped me with the outfitting before we started TV. So the 20 years that she's had in this space, I think the one thing that she is a huge advocate for is how the outdoors can teach you so much about yourself. It puts you in uncomfortable positions, like you said. It challenges you in ways that you never can imagine. And all it does is provide opportunities for personal growth and confidence and all the things that I think our young women and girls, and I guess gals of all different ages. And I think that's what she's taken away. That's her message. And, that wouldn't have been possible without you, Steve. So I'm speaking for her on this one, but can't thank you enough for that opportunity. And I encourage all the girls to get out there and experience the outdoors and learn something about yourself. That's what it's about.
Well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. Folks, watch Beyond the Hunt television on Outdoor Channel. Rick and Julie bring an authentic approach to the outdoors. They're as true blue as you could ever imagine. And Rick, I had a great time catching up with you today. I appreciate you joining us on the show. Thanks again.
Thanks for having us, guys. Love you guys, man. Appreciate it.
Nice meeting you, Rick.
Pleasure, man. We'll talk again soon. And I want to thank each and every one of you out there for watching and listening to this week's show. We'll be back with another episode of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast. Until then, we'll see you soon.